So I'd quit my job, I'd come home, I told everyone I was home to make cheese, so then I just had to figure out how to do it, kind of thing, like, you know. So.
Hi, I'm Sian Conway, and this is Tim Sherwood on camera duties. Hello, Tim. And this is Meet Your Maker, the series where we're going to be bopping around the place, talking to the mad heads on this island, doing mad bits in the food and drinks sphere of Ireland. Michael Thomson is an award-winning artisan cheesemaker whose cult fave Young Buck became the first ever raw milk cheese in production in Northern Ireland. 10 years later, and Young Buck is still that cheesy it girl and features in cheesemonger counters and menus across Ireland and beyond. Michael's passion for cheese and his craft is infectious and fun, and his charming little cheese shop, Mike's Fancy Cheese, on Little Donegal Street in Belfast, primed him perfectly to be patient zero for Meet Your Maker. The sentence, "Blessed are the cheesemakers," how do you feel about that?
Completely fine.
Yeah.
It's nice. You know, it's a very unthankful task making cheese, so thankfully people are blessed us out. Cheese making is like this kind of, everyone thinks it's, you know, stirring some hot milk up a hill somewhere, but it's just turning big heavy cheeses and cleaning up all day, like, you know. So
obviously your story is very interesting because there was no raw milk producers in the north. Until you came along.
And very just not very many small producers in general. And we made a raw milk cheese. Mainly, you know, there was a kind of a nicer idea, but also a pasteurizer costs £40,000, and whenever you're trying to start a business on a shoestring, you know,
we don't have £40,000.
yeah. So again, we put our energy into, like, you know, to make a raw milk cheese, you need a great milk supply. You know, you have to handle the milk really well. So we put our energy and focus into that rather than a £40,000 pasteurizer.
The raw milk situation isn't a taste preference or anything. It's just like kind of came from cost.
Everyone will have their kind of 10 cents on it kind of thing. Like a raw milk cheese, you'll kind of get a lot of layers of flavour. Like, we're kind of, you know, it's the taste of Newton Ards right there.
Yes.
Every day it's going to be a bit different, whatever the cows are eating and where they're walking around and how they're being milked. All those things sort of play into it, and our cheese is a very variable cheese anyway.
Yes.
But we kind of embrace that rather than, you know, try to make the exact same thing every day.
I'm going to go back to my discovery of Young Buck, which I was trying to remember, but I actually, for the life of me, can't remember where I had it for the first time. It was only last year, but I was vegan for like 7.5 years. And I'm going to say something that, like, people might get all up in arms about, but I do think at the time I was like, oh, I don't miss cheese. But looking back retrospectively, I was in complete denial about how much I miss cheese. And I think that, like, I never really cared for blue cheese that much. I wasn't that adventurous in my tastes, maybe growing up and stuff, and wouldn't have always thought, you know, blue cheese, it's stinky, it's smelly, it tastes a bit rotten, because obviously it does have mold in it, and it is stinky, and it is smelly. But I remember having Young Buck, again, can't remember where the fuck it was, but I had it and I was like, wait, what? This is delicious. This is not what I was expecting of blue cheese, or my palate just changed.
Well, we've got our keep it moldy, like, is our kind of ethos. Like, everyone eats with their eyes. Even my
the keep it moldy sign is so beautiful.
Like, even like my first tastes of cheese, or my mom was probably sneaking it underneath some cheddar or something like that. Like, you know. So it is just like, you know, salty, creamy, nutty. It's everything you kind of want in the cheese. But it's just, we with our eyes, you see the mold, but like the blue on the inside of the blue cheeses is like so similar to the whites on the outside of your bries and camemberts.
Yes.
And just breaks it down and gives it that kind of real creaminess.
I've seen it described a few times as like Stilton-esque or in a Stilton style.
Yeah, so we get a yearly letter from the Stilton Cheesemakers Association informing us not to call it Stilton. We don't call it Stilton, but again, it's based on like we've got a little book hidden over there, and it's like it's a recipe kind of taken from that. Got the kind of like Irish family cheese, late 70s. It was the Malines were kind of the first ones to make it. Veronica Steele moved down from Dublin down to West Cork, down to the Bear Peninsula. And again, cheesemaking is one of those kind of subsistence livings, you know, and it's kind of something's going to spoil very quickly, milk, and you're making it something you can age for a bit longer. So she was the kind of first person to make cheese, and she, you know, made Malines, which is like this kind of real wash rind, pungent, smelly cheese. But then instead of just like growing massive and making loads of it as it got more popular, she kind of taught other women in the area how to make cheese. So Jeffa Gill at Durris, Gianna Ferguson at Gabine. So then this kind of area becomes synonymous for that kind of style of cheese. Like, they're wash rind cheeses, but they have their own stamp. So you have like, cheesemakers have like a different mentality rather than like, oh, let's kind of go
let's size up.
Yeah. You can like, if someone took we showed someone how to make young buck and they made it 10 miles down the road, they'd get a complete different characteristic of their cheese. So again, we're in a great position where, you don't really have a rival, especially in small scale cheese making. The more people that are making cheese closer to us, the better. That's kind of why we opened the shop. We like with just Irish cheese, with the idea would hopefully get a few people better closer to us because there's not that many.
Can I go back to young buck for a sec? Because obviously she's now coming up to 10 years, or is just about to turn 11.
Yeah,
so she's no longer young buck, but teenage buck.
It's the young of the young buck is not a separate entity. it's a whole thing. So like in Ireland, we young buck. It's the idea of the thing, not
the actual age.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that was just my shitty joke that I was I must get this in somewhere.
We for a while we would have like sold it before the blue came through whenever it was like a month old. And then it was just confusing because then everyone was like, "Oh, this is young."
Oh, as opposed to
it's young buck. So
it'll become mature buck at some point.
Yeah. So it was always to sell a cheese that's younger than young buck was super confusing.
Yeah.
So we're doing it this year, but we're going to like completely we've got a load made up in ours for Christmas, but we're going to completely distance it from being a young buck. It'll be its own thing. But we don't have a name for it yet. So, any names?
Baby buck?
That was what it was.
That's kind of cute.
That's what it was.
But then that also might be confusing.
So it was called Baby Buck whenever we first did it. Like I think it was like 2016, 2017. We did it for a couple of years, just at Christmas and for one of our customers. And then then we just didn't really have much space up in ours to do anything else. So yeah.
You hand ladle young buck, right?
So like again, like cheese making is just you get milk, you add a culture, you add a rennet which sort of sets milk into this kind of big jelly, and then you separate that in some way or another, and that's going to get your curd is all your solid parts of the milk, your whey is your liquid waste.
This is truly like I was saying to you earlier. I didn't know anything about cheese bar. It coming from a cow and something happens in the middle. So
like all the cheeses are like it's all the exact same ingredients in all those cheeses. You know what I mean? So all the different styles of cheese will have the exact same ingredients, but it's just the process that you do to separate your curd and whey will give you different textures and flavors and stuff like that.
I'm actually so it's literally just the process that makes a Duras different to a young buck.
So again, there'll be that kind of initial way of making it. Everyone does the exact same thing. You get milk, you add some kind of starter culture. You'll add in your rennet to set it, and then depending on how you separate your curd and whey, you get like different cheeses. So if you were making like Santola, it's like a lactic goat cheese. They would use more starter culture than rennets, and they would leave that overnight, and then the milk acidifying once it gets below a certain pH, kind of all the little like proteins denature and grab on all the fats, and then that's called the lactic style cheese. That's going to be really like moussey and stuff like that. Then your kind of harder cheeses are going to be more like rennet based, where you kind of rennet sets it, and it's kind of forms these little like whenever you cut your curd, you'll use kind of like knives, and that'll like separate it into the curd and whey, and your curds are little kind of different cubes, and then depending on what size you cut them. If you want a harder, drier cheese, you're going to cut them smaller, you're going to stir them, you're going to heat that milk up. You're going to get that curd and stick it into a mold and press it, and because you don't want any like moisture in it because you have to age it for ages. Whereas we kind of are halfway between a hard cheese and a lactic cheese, where we're kind of we don't do any heating, just let the sort of curd set to the bottom.
That's where the raw milk situation comes in.
Like
it's the pasteurizing is to heat it up, right?
So pasteurizing, that's at the very start will be you'll heat your milk to a certain temperature and then cool it down again to start the cheese making process. So that comes at the very, 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 very start.
I want to talk to you about your Instagram presence because it's a very fun account. It's like not too serious. It's a bit gas, and I feel like it just for someone who maybe doesn't know that much about cheese, like anyway, I don't know, it just feels like a lovely little kind of like, oh, it's just your mate posting, like not shit posting, but like posting like fun little bits about cheese.
Yeah, well again, like cheese kind of is just very photogenic anyway off the bat. So again, it kind of always looks nice. Whenever we go to visit people, we can post it up. I'm always eating cheese myself. So again, it's that kind of like, we're like a lifestyle, you know what I mean? So here's like, eat a bit of cheese, have a beer for your dinner, put a photo of that up to see that people are like, you're allowed to do that kind of thing.
You're allowed to do that. Don't listen to what your doctor says, okay? You can have some cheese and a beer. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it kind of spawned out of my personal Instagram account. Again, it's very confusing for everybody as well, because obviously it's not Mike's Fancy Cheese.
No.
It's not Young Buck, but it does contain Buck because it's called Where's That Joe Buck?
Where's That Joe Buck?
Yeah, it's a Midnight Cowboy kind of reference.
Where is that Joe Buck? Look at this crap!
I just thought your name was Joe when I first started following.
And again, everyone always messages me going, "Hi Joe." So yeah. So again, my Instagram account and the name of my business aren't my name, kind of thing. Like, so yeah, it kind of spawned out of that, and yeah, it's just nice pictures of, again, Tony Moore, who does all my lovely signs and stickers. Again, it's
Shout out Tony, they're beautiful signs and stickers.
It's just like nice, like, you know, it's a handmade. Obviously, we're in a kind of quite industrial shop, and again, we make the cheese in a kind of, you know, stainless steel, clean environment to create molds that you kind of like. So again, with the shop, those kind of like hand done, so handwritten signs, handwritten posters, it kind of ties in with the product and everything. You know, we kind of slowly build that up. You know, we didn't want to like launch with everything there each year. A few more posters, a few more signs. It's kind of just that natural bit more cheese.
Follow the old, like the original logo up to like. Is this the most recent iteration
most recent one,
on your lovely new fleeces?
Yeah.
But I think it's nice. It's like, as I was saying to you, there's so many business owners, small business owners, and like people in hospitality who they're so fucking exhausted from like running a business and like all of that end and like the production or the service, and then they're just like, I don't have the headspace to like make a fucking TikTok about like to do a trend. But I think you can see the joy in your page, and I think it kind of like translates where it's just like here's some bits, there you go, this is good crack, here's some good cheese.
It's like cheese never ends kind of thing. Like whenever you make a raw milk cheese, it's never done. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the Instagram is that kind of following. It's never a complete thing. It's just always changing, and that's fine.
Do you ever get like really freezing in here?
We just literally bought these.
Yeah, they're very nice. They're very
and we've
nice.
got like those kind of like blue work jackets as well, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. You know, I have seen them.
Yeah, we wear them sometimes.
Styling. I'm going to ask you to ungatekeep your cheese and beer tasting knowledge. Would you mind giving us a little pairing?
For sure.
For some of your fine fancy cheeses?
Yeah. Again, like whenever we're doing the beer and cheese nights, we kind of always start with something that, you know, the first cheese that people always say they don't like. It's always good to get that one out of the way. So goat's cheese is like one cheese that everyone will come in and say, I don't like goat's cheese, but it's because they've had bad goat's cheese.
Because they're wrong.
So we usually start with either like the Centola or the Knockleachima. These are like little, like we call them like lactic style goat cheeses. So like super moussey, super light, really kind of like fresh, lemony, real like no kind of goaty flavors. And we'll always start at like 90% of our beer and cheese nights. We'll start with that because it's a real palate cleanser. Yes. It's a nice way we can sort of describe how cheese is made. It's because it's kind of like the original way cheese would have been made. You know, like they would have got the curd, hung it up in like pillowcases above the fire, and it's that kind of real moussey texture. So again, that's kind of what we will always start with. And again, it's a really good one to start because it pairs best with the kind of lighter beers, like even like a real kind of like lovely fizzy lager, because it's a kind of real fatty, mouth coating kind of cheese, that kind of fizz, like that's kind of why beer is perfect with it. Like all fizzy beers go well with all cheeses, but you know, really light, fresh lagers, nothing too heavy. It just kind of like cleanses the palate kind of thing, like, you know. Cheese board, we always say, hard to soften the blue, or your kind of, you know, your three cornerstones of a cheese board.
Yes.
So then like maybe something harder, you know, things like Temple Gall, like that kind of like Comté style, real crowd pleaser, really smooth and nutty, that, or like the Coulee, that kind of 18-month-old Gouda. It'll have a bit more like sweeter flavors. Again, just like a nice kind of big like hazy IPA, something super juicy.
I'm actually like, I can feel my mouth watering. I'm like, sunflower's not too far away.
10 to 12 now, that, you know. And then again, like a bit of young buck to finish. You know, it's the kind of combination of all the cheeses. It's got the kind of that big punchy blue, salty. So anything big, like big imperial stout, is kind of like a good way to, you know, wee creamy beamy even as well. It's, you know, it doesn't have to be big 10% or anything like that. Like a nice little kind of malty, chocolatey, something like that.
So is this a Beamish Stan account here?
Yeah, well, again, you know, some sunflowers are our logo. The Beamish is on top, like, you know, so yeah. And also, again, you know, sort of I think probably 80% of our cheese in the shop are from Cork. the Temple Gall. He may be a Frenchman, but he sends up a case of can of Beamish with every pallet. They send up the cheese.
Actually, so you get your cheese, but you also get a little can for a job well done.
You get a wee 4-pack of Beamish from Temple Gall every time we get a wee pallet up, like, you know. So
I really hope that this video inspires a lot of people to become cheesemakers, just for the idea of potentially getting a few cans of Beamish up with it.
Well, that's again, like, you know, cheese, bread, a beer, like it's dinner, you know what I mean? So
you're telling me, fucking hell, the 3 best things in this world, and vegans again. Give it 2 more years, but stunning.
Really, I've got like this old like cheese book, and it has this like perfect picture of like a guy sitting down below in like a summer's day, sitting in a shade, and like cheese and the beer, and it's like your perfect kind of little afternoon, have a snooze, and then you get productive again in the afternoon, like, you know.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. This has been great. This has been Meet Your Maker. This has been Michael Thomson.
Thanks.
Thanks. I'm very happy to have finally had this episode done. Thank you, first of all, to Tim for being willing to do this with me. Thank you, Tim. Love you. I'm so glad to have someone who is so willing and up for the crack and up for this vision as myself. Secondly, I would love to send a big love you, thank you to my driver, my financer, my love of my life, Ian Blake, for all of everything he's done to make this happen, including new mics and driving us up to Belfast, and the constant encouragement and support that I need to actually see this fucking thing through. Thirdly, I would like to thank Michael Thomson and all of the staff at Mike's Fancy Cheese. Thank you for letting me come in and commandeer your space and yap away, and for being so lovely and sound. Thank you to any person I've talked to, friends, family and strangers, who have encouraged me to pursue my dreams and to get this fucking series done. Thank you. Thank you to my dog Mira for being here for emotional support, and thank you to the food industry. Love you. You inspire me. God bless. Mwah. Hopefully there'll be an episode 2. What do people say? Oh yeah, Slán live.
Puns all day, every day.
Yes.
Like, you know, so we're thick-skinned with it all.
Thick-skinned. No, I was going to say something about rind. Rind and grind.